I want you all to close your eyes and imagine with me what I looked like in the 7th grade. I know it's a bold request, but just go with it for a second. Glasses, braces, full mustache, and one very specific dream: to make middle school show choir. I had practiced my heart out, jazz hands ready, and I was fully and emotionally prepared to make my Broadway debut in a Texas middle school gym. Spoiler alert, I didn't make it. And when you're about 12, 13 years old, not making middle school show choir feels like the end of the world. And I remember thinking, this is it. This is how my story ends. But it wasn't, and it never is. Because often those unanswered prayers, those moments where we don't get what we desperately want, don't end the story. Often, they start the story. So then what do you do when you don't get what you really want? You've practiced and you've prepared and you've prayed, but the answer is silence. For 7th grade me, the answer was cry. And honestly, for many of us, that's kind of where we start, because rejection hurts, disappointment stings, and we don't always like to talk about those feelings or those moments, the almosts, the not yets, the flat out no's. It's hard. And think about it. There's probably a moment in your life where you didn't get the job that you wanted. The fellowship fell through. You didn't win the big game. You didn't get the relationship. Whatever it was, you faced the same hardship before. You've showed up fully, and yet it just didn't work out. What do you do then? The good news is we are a lot stronger than we think. In a 1978 study, researchers Brickman, Coates, and Janoff-Bullman conducted a study in which they looked at happiness in 3 different groups of people. One group was a group of people who had won the lottery. The second was a group of people who had suffered a serious accident, leaving them paralyzed. And the third was a control group, just a group of everyday people living their lives. And what they found was that across all groups of people, no matter if they'd received wonderful news or horrible news, eventually returned to about the same baseline level of happiness. This is called hedonic adaptation. Essentially, we're wired to adapt, to reset. Even if we get really great news or really horrible news, we tend to recalibrate emotionally. And it's interesting. So there is a Harvard researcher who builds upon this idea through his research on impact bias. It's our tendency to overestimate how much something positive or negative will impact our happiness in the future. And most of the time we think, well, if I don't get this, I'm going to be devastated. But rarely do we actually stay devastated. We move on, we adjust, we reroute. And you know who else didn't get exactly what they wanted? Oprah was fired from her first TV job and was told she was unfit for television. Lady Gaga was dropped from her record label 3 months after joining. And Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school 3 times. But really, when you think about it, maybe these weren't real rejections, they're more redirections. Can you imagine if any of these people just quit right then and just stopped? We wouldn't even know their names. We wouldn't have ever seen their greatest accomplishments. And that's the same for you. We redirect, we move on. And this same truth is reflected in many different areas of our lives, and not just psychology. We see this same truth in faith traditions as well. For example, in Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, teaches us that every prayer really has some kind of answer. Either God gives us what we ask for, or it's delayed for a different time, or it's replaced with something better. And in the meantime, we realize that it's hard. It's hard to wait, it's hard to not know, and it's hard to feel rejection. And so we're also taught that فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Verily, with hardship comes ease, and verily, with more hardship comes ease. And it's not just there, but in Christianity, there's also more evidence of this. we are told that, quote, "You do not have because you do not ask God, or you ask with the wrong motives," which also pauses us to reflect and think, am I asking with the right intentions? What's really behind what I want? And it forces us to really interrogate what's behind it. There's also this same concept in Buddhism, which is called non-attachment. As humans, we tend to really, really focus on the outcomes of things, and we can't actually control that. We just do our best. And the more that we focus on the outcomes, the more we suffer. So the idea behind non-attachment is the more that you can let go, the more you make space for peace. 3 different faith traditions, but all with the same message. There's power in the prayer that goes unanswered. And it's not just in religion. This same idea can be found in general science. So science, as a discipline, is all about failure. It's all about trial and error. And even in failed experiments, things that don't go according to plan, there's still information to be learned. You're still gaining something. Every failure is actually a step forward. Think about NASA engineers trying to send a rover on Mars. They don't just try once and hope for the best. They try, they edit, they fail, they try again, they adapt, they change, because science is all about iteration. We fail forward. And so Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck wanted to know what makes some people more likely to persist than others. And ultimately, it comes down to our mindset. Some of us have a growth mindset and others have a more fixed one. And it's not something that you're stuck with. You can develop a growth mindset. And all it means is that you believe you have some control over how you see things. And so when a calamity happens, you know that you have some agency in moving one step forward instead of just accepting your fate. So the next time you feel like a door has closed, or you missed an opportunity, or there was just a flat out crash landing, remember that in science and in life, failure is actually just a part of the journey. And you're not broken, you're becoming. So how do you go from feeling broken, because we've all felt that way before, how do you go from those feelings to feeling like you're becoming something better? Well, here are 3 questions to kind of help you move forward. 1, ask yourself, what is this teaching me? So there's this concept called cognitive adaptation. So it's essentially the idea that we can rewrite the stories that we tell ourselves by reframing things. And when we do that, we can actually decrease our level of stress and increase resilience. So the next time you don't feel like you've gotten what you really want, stop and ask yourself, what could this be teaching me? What am I learning here? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's resilience. Or maybe it's clarity around what you really want. 2, what's next? We tend to stay stuck in disappointment a little longer than we actually need to. So when a door closes, don't just stare at the door. Look for a window. Check to see what's down the hall. There's often opportunity right in front of us. So instead, ask yourself, what's next? How might I grow? Who might I become? This keeps you future focused and reminds you that a closed door, it can lead to an even better storyline. And 3, what is life making room for? So here's where I want to slow down a little. And you've probably heard about this Stanford marshmallow test that they've done with children. So basically, there were some researchers, Walter Mischel in particular, in the 1960s, and you've probably seen these really adorable videos on YouTube or social media of these kids who are about 3 or 4 years old, and they're given a marshmallow, and they're told if they can wait about 15 minutes, they can have 2 marshmallows. And if you've ever been around a 3 or 4-year-old, 15 minutes is a very long time to wait for something. And so if you look at these videos, you can watch them poke at the marshmallow and lick the marshmallow and all these things to distract themselves from what they're trying to wait for. And what's really interesting is they were just trying to look at delayed gratification. And what they found was when they followed this same group of children many years later, they made better grades in school, they had stronger relationships, and overall happier, more stable lives. So the marshmallow became a metaphor. Those who can wait often gain something even greater. So the next time life forces you to wait or withholds that thing that you really want, remind yourself that this isn't punishment, it's preparation. Sometimes there's something even greater that you can't see yet. We don't always need more marshmallows. We need more faith. So, come back to me. Close your eyes again. No. And this time I'm in 8th grade. And I try again. I try out for show choir. And this time I make it. 8th grade me braces off 2 full separate eyebrows. Basically a celebrity. But really, I didn't just gain a spot in show choir. I gained resilience and grit. And I learned how to swallow my pride and try again. And now, many, many rejections later, I've also learned a lot about myself in the process. I've learned that I still love being on stage, but not so much for show tunes and choreography, but for storytelling and for connection and having moments like this one. So, one thing that I like to take with me from that experience, and now as a mom of 3 and an aunt of 6 and an unsolicited advice giver to many, many people, I often think about how setbacks and rejection are really not stop signs. They're opportunities to pause, reflect, and to do something different. So I will leave you with this. The next time you feel like a prayer goes unanswered, ask yourself, what could life be making room for? And reflect again, what is something that you didn't get? The game that you didn't win, the opportunity that you felt like you lost, the job you didn't get, the relationship that didn't happen, whatever it was. And now look back and think, can I see the gift in it? Can I see how that no made room for something else? Because sometimes the best thing that could happen to us is the thing that doesn't happen at all. Thank you.